Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending our presentation today. We will be outlining the business model for a municipal driverless vehicle department responsible for the introduction, use, and operations of driverless vehicles. Our group members are Irfan, Brent, and myself, Rocco. Throughout this presentation, the team will provide you with benchmark research on the topic. We will specify the scope of this department, propose a business model, and discuss further considerations for driverless vehicles, or AVs.
Many countries around the world have noticed the interruption that introduction of AVs will cause in their cities and have begun to plan for it. From the benchmark, it was evident that different countries and jurisdictions have different plans for introduction and management of AVs. However, all plans agree on the fact that policymaking is an important aspect of introduction of AVs. They also agree on the fact that the existing infrastructure needs a major rework to become suitable for the operation of AVs. Another point that has been addressed in these plans is the value of the information that is generated as a byproduct of AV operation. Some suggest that the organization in charge of AVs must take on an active role in collecting this data and using it in modifying the regulations and reworking of the infrastructure. We think this data would put such an organization in a good position to create a central management system that monitors the operation of AVs and provides live updates to vehicles on what path to take, and thereby enhances the operations of the vehicles and the traffic flow around the city. So what will the role of the Department of Automated Vehicles be? First, examining the existing regulations and proposing necessary modifications. Second, examining the existing infrastructure and proposing necessary modifications. Third, creating and operating the central management system.
Okay, now let's move on to the business model, starting with the value proposition. The public will receive many benefits from the collection, storage, and analysis of AV data provided by this department. The central management system will provide driverless cars with updated roadway information to allow people to get to their destinations as efficiently as possible. The department will also be able to gather large amounts of information regarding all aspects of people's daily commutes and propose changes to infrastructure and regulations that will ultimately improve the experience of moving around the city. For the government, the information collected locally from this department will be invaluable to municipal, provincial, and federal governments in making important decisions on methods to improve infrastructure and transportation services all around the country. The department will identify opportunities for enhancing regulations and either implement them directly or make recommendations to other agencies regarding implementation. The driverless vehicle technology developed through this department can be incorporated into many government services, such as street cleaning, parking enforcement, and transit operations. The data provided can also be used as a revenue-generating tool for governments, as certain information can be legally and ethically sold to interested private parties to improve services to their customers. For private companies, the information collected by these vehicles will be significant and wide-ranging, and there will be a large amount of valuable personal data gathered that will be of interest to many firms. Companies will be interested in monetizing this personal data to improve their services and tailor their business activities to the actions of their customers. In addition, driverless car companies themselves, both manufacturers and operators, will benefit significantly from having a government agency dedicated to their business, as the department will provide them with appropriate information to develop and operate their vehicles efficiently and in accordance with standards and specifications.
The Municipal Driverless Car Department will address three main segments of clients with their value proposition, culminating to a segmented market effect. These three segments of clients are the public, other government agencies, and private companies. The purpose of AV is to improve the efficiency and safety of travel, through which all citizens are involved. What the department offers is advanced mobility to the public. Managing the city's network of AV and collecting and monitoring the data that is generated, and then presenting it back to the public on a platform that they can use, allows the public to become better informed and make better decisions relating to travel. Managing all AV data also allows the department to serve other government agencies, providing them with vital information that allows them to make accurate, facts-based decisions that will then permit these agencies to provide further value to the mass market. Making available mass amounts of data pertaining to passengers to car manufacturers and private companies allows these corporations to analyze and extract value from the data that they can then use to gain a competitive advantage. To reach these customer segments, the appropriate channels must be established between them and the department. Through these distinct channels, the value proposition can be delivered to these customers. The department will make use of social media with applications such as Twitter and Facebook, while also setting up and maintaining a website and mobile app. Using these various platforms, a social media community can be formed through which the department can coordinate and inform the public on all things relating to the AV system, allowing the public to make travel and mobility-based decisions. Internal coordination will be used to provide other government agencies with channels to access their part of the value proposition. Dedicated government employees provide a direct channel for the flow of information and data collected from the AV department to the appropriate agencies. For private companies, the department will use sales representatives. Businesses will be paired with the department representative who will provide a direct channel through which the necessary information and data can reach their business. Once the customer segments and channels have been set up and identified, it is important for the department to maintain positive customer relationships that allow for the efficient operation of the different value propositions. Automated services and personal assistance will be utilized for the public, while government agencies and private companies will have access to dedicated personal assistance.
The Municipal Driverless Vehicle Department could pursue several revenue streams. The most obvious source of revenue for this department will be through the financial monetization of certain information collected through the operation and management of AVs to interested private companies. Interested parties identified include advertisers, restaurant retail chains, real estate developers, financial institutions, insurance companies, and media agencies. Another revenue stream for this department could be through the development and implementation of a premium transportation application that provides services above already offered by a standard application. It will provide updated traffic information, ideal routes to be taken throughout the day, come and go times at desired destinations, and possibly include discounts on certain transportation infrastructure. This application will provide large benefits to private AV operating companies and individual AV owners, and the department could charge a usage fee to these parties for access to the application. Lastly, certain fees and taxes can be applied to AVs. Such taxes or fees include sales tax on vehicle licenses, a VMT tax, higher fees on public parking, and higher taxes on private parking. It is important to note that the legality and ethicality of elements of these potential revenue-generating ideas need to be appropriately examined by a legal counsel.
In terms of key resources, the physical resources of this department would be the large array of IT infrastructure that it will use to collect and distribute data, including a data center, the real estate it will need to house its staff and equipment. Intellectual resources of this department would be the databases of governmental organizations at different levels of government, databases of AV companies for all forms of design and operation information, operating systems and softwares, a website for the purpose of communication. In terms of human resources and financial resources, this department would be no different from other municipal departments. The key activities of this department would be collecting information and data, studying information and data, creating development plans for improving the infrastructure that support AVs in the form of projects that will either be put into tender or carried out by the municipality itself, proposing modifications to regulations to enhance existing regulations. These will be presented in the form of proposals to the municipality itself or other government bodies for implementation, communication with their stakeholders, consulting the public, operating and maintaining IT systems and equipment, operating the central management system. In terms of key partnerships, this department will need to work with other governmental organizations to receive much of the information it needs and to engage them in modifying regulations that are beyond its authorities. It will also need to partner with AV manufacturers and other tech companies such as Uber and Google for their knowledge, resources, expertise, and the information they have on the design and operation of AVs. This department, being analytical and data-oriented, will need extensive intellectual resources. Some of this will be provided internally by hiring experts as full-time staff, but it will not be nearly sufficient. The department will need to form strong partnerships with institutions such as universities and other consultancy firms for their intellectual resources. These partnerships will likely need to be so extensive and continuous that it will take on the form of a joint venture. The department might also need to form joint ventures with telecommunication companies for their IT infrastructure, if it determines that it will be beneficial to rely on them rather than acquiring the infrastructure itself.
The cost structure of the driverless vehicle department will be similar to other municipal government agencies, with the addition of resources required for data collection and management. The segment of the cost structure that deals with expenses specific to this department include costs for collecting and managing driverless vehicle information, establishing and maintaining the software required to operate the central management system, and developing algorithms to improve driverless vehicle software.
Beyond the business model, there are further considerations that the department will have to look at and assess. One of the challenges that the development of AV is facing right now is the fact that different manufacturers are working in isolation, which is a considerable issue as these cars are expected to drive down the same roads and interact with other cars and human drivers. Part of this discussion requires a decision on navigation methodology. One of the main focuses of this department should be creating such framework so that consistency in operation can be achieved on the streets. There are also social and economic challenges to the adoption of driverless cars that should not be overlooked. These include negative public acceptance of these cars as they remove traditional forms of work related to transportation, taxis, parking, and ticketing, and the revenues that these create. The Department of AV will be in a good position to study these problems and find solutions, but will not necessarily be able to resolve them on its own. AV will also raise questions about privacy and security that must be addressed. AV, with technologies that make them smart, collect a large amount of data from the environment and people around them, some of which may breach the boundaries of privacy. Cybersecurity is another consideration that will have implications on both the legislation and infrastructure around AV, as new regulations and infrastructure will have to be created to address this concern. Another important aspect of the adoption of AV is the challenge of ethical responsibility, which arises as softwares and algorithms are given the privilege of choice, which has always been unique to humans. This topic requires extensive study to be fully captured, analyzed, and decided on, and will most likely be debated, changed, and challenged for years to come.
Through this presentation, it is our hope that the municipality has what it requires in terms of research, scope, business model specifications, and further considerations to move forward with the implementation of a driverless vehicle department. The incorporation of driverless vehicles into everyday life will be an enormous challenge for governments across the country. However, by implementing an effective business model that appropriately considers and responds to the challenges and implications of these vehicles, governments can be successful. Thank you for listening.